Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is Helton's Computer Repair here with another video for you. On this video, I'm going to be showing you how to enable the remote desktop on your computer pretty much for it to work. They can remote into it. Now, it's not going to be just regular remoting into your network. And let's say we're like at a different side of the building and you want to remote into it. No, I'm actually going to be showing you how you can remote this outside the network anywhere you are. Depending on that, I might actually go into a point where you could also maybe later down the road, show you how to set up on a specific website, pretty much a redirect for it. They can get to your remote desktop too. There are other things also going to be done by changing the ports from the 3389 default port for remote desktop to something more secure, because most people would try and brute force going to the default generic 3389 for it, and also stuff that you would recommend to have a good password for your computer. Also some stuff that you would recommend to not have any users that have no password, or something very simple that can be crackable, because it's not really hard for people to brute force into your computer if it's enabling the remote desktop. There are other stuff also, depending if you have an antivirus protection, you might need to enable those ports too, but this is going to go straight through, and if you have any problems, just let me know. But let's go ahead and jump right into this video. Now, before we get into this, if I haven't told you yet, if you have a Windows 10 home, pretty much you may not have this ability for it. You probably need to have Pro, Enterprise, or Education for this to work. So your option is to pretty much upgrade it, or to use a different route, like using like Real VNC to use that ability to remote into your computer. But for the rest, is go ahead and continue. So first thing you do is pretty much go ahead and go to Explore. When you go to Explore, you see this PC. You can right click on it, and you select Properties of it. And on the left side, you have the ability where it says Remote Settings. Go ahead and select it. And right here, I'm actually going to uncheck where it says Remote Assistance. I don't need that. And right here, you can select Allow Remote Connections to this computer. Go ahead and press Apply. If you have multiple users, you can select which users have permission, or whatever, if they're joined in a group. If you know what that is, you understand. By default, I already have this user, so I'm going to go ahead and just leave this as is and press OK. Another option, in case if it's not being shown there, you can pretty much go also to Settings by going to Start and Settings and select System, and then you'll see Remote Desktop, and here it is enabled also, so pretty much it's the same one or the other for it, and it's pretty much set already. So another thing that you need to do before we continue is I'm actually going to remote in to try and see if it works. You need to have an password for your computer for this to work. Now, if you have a user that has no password or something very simple to be cracked, I would really recommend to change it to something more secure. So all we're going to do is go to this, pretty much Start, go to Settings. You pretty much can just type in Control-Delete, and you can select Change User Password if you have the ability. If not, go to Settings, go to Accounts. And then once you get to here, you're going to see Sign In Options. And then you have other options to come to here. The one that we're actually going to need is pretty much the password. And I already have a password that's already been set before, but I'm actually going to update it to something more different for it. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my new one. And I'm going to go ahead and type it in again. If you had something small, you need to change it. And my hint is none. Just to be mean, because I don't want no one to know what it is. And the password has been changed and is now set. So technically right now, if I test my other computer, I should be able to remote to this computer, and the screen should lock up. If it is, then pretty much it is in process. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to remote to this one. Right now, I don't know what my IP address is, because remember, this is only local. So I'm going to go ahead and type in CMD, ipconfig, and right now it is 192.168.1.139. Again, this is a private network, so it doesn't even matter right now. It's only my local, so it won't matter what you have. So what I'm going to do now is pretty much go ahead and see if I can remote into it from my other computer. Cancel that. So here it is, the 192.168.1.139. Yours may be different depending on what it is. But here it is. I'm going to go ahead and try and press connect. Depending on the user that you had. So my user is, it says admin. It is not admin. It is actually, the user is user. Let's see what it is. It's actually user. So let me go to here. I'm going to go ahead to CMD. And I'm going to go ahead and type in net user. And you see my user is actually user. If you have stuff that has multiple names, you might need to do something like this. Let's say example, it's like John Smith as the user. So this is what it would look like. Then you probably need to do this when you type it in for it to work. I would recommend to probably just change your user to something just simple as just like John. Also, don't use something like admin or user. Put something more secure for this. This is just an example for the demonstration for right now. So here I am. I'm going to go ahead and remote to it. I'm going to go ahead and type in user. And I'm going to go ahead and type in the password that I just did. And we're going to see if I can remote into it. It's going to ask if you want to connect with it. I'm going to go ahead and press yes. And here it is right now. I remoted to the computer. It's there. I am literally remoted into this. Now, technically, this is through the IP address. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect. And here it is on that computer. I'm going to go ahead and sign back in. And you don't have to do the IP address if you don't want to. If you have the name of the computer. So if I go to this PC that I have, and you see I have changed settings. I'm actually just going to highlight this. This is actually the computer's full name, and you can do that route too. You can change this also by going to change and put something more simple that you'll remember what it is, and it'll give you that option for you. So if I go the same way to remote desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and type in that instead, I'm going to press connect. It should be able to do the same thing too. And here it is. You see, it already knows what the name is. I'm press yes, and here I am remoting into this computer, and there it is with the name working perfectly fine. And that's pretty much it right now. If you had an antivirus protection, you might need to enable this to be bypassed for allow you to it. It would be default as 3389 on that port, or if not, if we have a new port, you would have to search for your antivirus and enable the port. So right now we are valid to remote into this computer, and that's great. But we're going to be showing into go to setup wherever we are. Now, before we get into this, we need to change some more settings for this. By default, I don't want to leave that default port from 3389, and I want to change it to something more secure. So first we need to do is pretty much you need to change this port. So we're going to go ahead and open up regedit. So pretty much it's registry editor, and we're going to go ahead and type it in. And you'll probably be prompted to go ahead and press yes. And here I am with all different folders from last times I've used this. I'm actually going to just minimize most of this back up. And you'll probably look like this when you see it. It pretty much looks like that. So what we're going to do is go to a specific location. So we need to go to the hkey_local_machine. And then we need to use system. Then select current control set. And then select control. Yes, it's going to be a lot of lists to get to this. And next you're going to go ahead, I'm going to slide this over, and you're going to see terminal server. Go ahead and select it. And then you'll see Win Stations, and then you'll see Remote Desktop TCP. Now, technically, if you have a older version than other than Windows 10, I think we have like 8 or maybe 7, there might be a little bit different, maybe like XP. You might need to create you might have a different folder, an example. So it might look like a folder like this called port number. It might be in there, and then you would have to select it. That's what it would look like. But technically, we don't have one because we're on Windows 10. We don't have that folder. It all just got moved into the folder of remote desktop _TCP. So here we are. We're going to go to this big list, and we're going to look for the one that's called port number. If you do not have it, I'm actually going to see if it's right here. Port number is right there. You should have it. It's pretty much simple. If not, you would have to create a new D word, and you'll just have to name it port number for it. So here it is, port number, and you're wondering like, what is this value data? I'm like, it doesn't say that it's 3389. We're actually going to select to decimal, and then we have this option where it's 3389. We need to choose a different port other than that because you don't want people to hack into your computer for it. So I'm actually going to go ahead and open up a browser and show you this cool link right here that tells you what ports are most likely being used for this list. So here's a big list from all different companies and services that uses ports for this. And what I'm going to look is maybe around like the 5,000 area. Depending on your service provider, you might need to choose a different range. So right here, let's see, let's go to like 4,000s around here. I see lists from all different ports, and you see there's some that aren't even lists. So an example, after 41900, whatever, 4190, you pretty much see this right here, and then it jumps into 4198. So that gives us pretty much a range from 4191 all the way to 4197, and you can change this to anyone. You can choose anyone just within that range, and depending, you can choose it if you want to. It's not being used also. So again, just choose a random one. So like right here, here's the range from after 4001 to 4018. So I'm going to choose a default to like 4002 as it for the one I'm going to use for that range. So right here, I'm going to change it to 4002, and that's what is going to be done. And I'm going to press OK. And it's pretty much been changed. So now when I come on here, it looks like that. I go to decimal, it's pretty much set from hexadecimal to decimal. So now it's been done. We're going to need to restart this computer. So let's go ahead and let it do its work. So here we are getting ready to sign back into this computer. And let me get into it again. Here it is. And I'm going to pretend like I'm going to try and remote in right now where I was just at. So here's the computer. And technically I can type in the IP address too and it'll work the same way. I'm going to try and press connect. And it's not going to. It's going to sit here and note and say you can't connect. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to enable the ability for the port. So what you have is if you have a name of the computer or the IP address. So, for example, if it's a name, then you can leave it as is. Then you can put the colon right here. Quotation. What are they? Colon, quotations? Regardless of those two dots. You know what they are. And what we're going to do is go ahead and type in that 4002 that we just did. And it's still not letting. So I'm like, why isn't it letting it go through? Well, the problem is that we need to enable it to be valid to remote in from the firewall. So let's go ahead and go to that step now. So next we're going to go to start. And we're going to go ahead and just type in control. And actually cancel that. I think we could just type in called firewall. And this will pretty much Windows Defender Firewall. This is what it's going to look like. Depending, you have a different, it's going to be something similar, but it's going to be called a firewall. You understand what it is. And it would look something like this. Once you get to this location, we're going to go to advanced settings of it. And we're going to go to, I'm going to go ahead and expand this. We're going to select the one that says inbound rules. And these are big lists. Do not mess with these or do not disable or change any of the things unless you know what you're doing. You can literally hurt your computer if you don't know what you're doing correctly. So here we are. I'm going to select, go to the right side. I'm going to select a new rule. Underneath this rule, I'm going to select a port. And I'm going to press next. By default, I'm going to leave it as TCP. And right here, we're going to choose a specific local ports. Now, technically, if you have different computers and you want to set them to different numbers, then you can choose that range. Regardless, my IP address is going to be 4002. If you have more, it kind of shows the example. So if you had this, you'll put that space. Then you can type in 4003 and so on and so forth. But all I need right now is just 4002. I'm going to press next. And we're going to allow that connection. That allows them pretty much to work through it. This can also be done the same way if you want to block a connection too. Let's say if you have someone that's been hitting your network on a game console or something like that, then you could block their ports and voila. But it's only on that computer. You know what I mean? Same concepts. But I'll just show you more explanation into that. Right now, we're pretty much allowing that connection for it. Press next. You can choose if you want this to apply to only your public, private, or domain. I'm going to leave them all checked. Press next. And I'm going to name this as, just to make this easier, I won't lose it. I'm going to type in 01- remote desktop protocol, RDP. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to press finish. So there it is. And the policy has been created. So now I'm going to see if I can remote to this computer for it. So here I am. I'm going to go ahead and try and press connect. And here it is allowing it for it to work through. I'm going to go ahead and type in the password. And here it is passing through like nothing. So now I gave permission for the firewall for that port to go through. And now I can remote to this computer from a different IP address in the same network for it. That is great. So technically, it's good if you only want this to be done where you're in the network, let's say at a business or something like that. But let's say if you want to be set up somewhere else. Well, then there's some additional settings, and it all depends what type of internet service you have and for this to work. I have pretty much had my own custom router, so it might be a little different, but the concept is going to still be the same. So here I am. I'm going to go ahead and open up the browser. Once you get to there, I'm going to go ahead and type in my IP address, -1.1. Technically, if you don't know what yours is, depending on your provider, you can go ahead and just open up the CMD. And you can type in ipconfig. And you see that gateway? That's the gateway that you're using for your router. Depending on what you have, it might be different. But here it is, the default gateway. And now I'm going to go ahead and type in the password for this. Is very simple. This is a very simple one. I haven't changed nothing really. It's kind of just as it's generic. By default, you have a different brand like Linksys or something like that, or there's so many different brands, Cisco versions or Netgear or something like that. You need to just look up the model, or it usually tells you what the default password is. Regardless, here I am logging into the system. As if I want to save it, I'm going to press never. From this point, you're pretty much going to need to be sure that you know which one you're getting and how you can get to this. So here we are. It's a little bit different than regular usual ones. regardless, the concepts are going to be the same. I'm going to go to my settings underneath security. Yours might be differently, but you need to search for something that's allowed for like protocol. Now, technically, you can use DMZ, and you can type in that on, and you can set up the IP address of your computer, and that's fine. But we don't want that to happen on this. And actually, there's another feature. I need to set up my IP address to static too to show you this. So right here, I'm going to go ahead and go to the ability, and you'll have to search all into there, and eventually you'll find out something called port range forwarding. That's what you need to select. Right now, I have a couple of them. I'm probably going to blur them out for you, and I'm going to go ahead and select a new port range forwarding. So right here, I'm going to name it as Remote Desktop Protocol, RDP. It could be anything. It doesn't matter. It's just a naming scheme. And right here, I'm going to enable the ports that I want. Now, technically, it's only that one, so I can just leave that one number of itself in there. And I can enable, if I just want it to be TCP, I can enable both. I'm not really just going to leave it as both. It doesn't matter. So here we are right now. I need to type in the name of the IP address. It is 1.139, if I am correctly. Let me check again. And yes, it is 1.139. Now, technically, if you set up your computer right now, I'm going to show you, you can change your IP address to something static that you want to. But here it is, it's pretty much set. So I'm going to go ahead and press apply and press OK. So technically, it's now allowing this port and the name of that computer to pass through that network for it. So right now, it's there. And everything looks good, but your IP address usually changes automatically when you have a DHCP. So we're going to change that DHCP to a static IP address. Now, there's lots of different ways. I'm probably just going to show you a simple route. You can go to this option right here on the icon, and then you'll select Network Internet Settings, and then you're going to go to the Ethernet, and that's the one that you currently have, and you see it's all set up. And you can change the settings right here from IP settings. We saw where it went to. I went to this, to Ethernet, selected the Ethernet that I have. And then from there, you can select your IP assignment. I'm going to set up that automatic to manual. And all you need is IP version 4. You don't need IP version 6. That is a totally another story. So unless you know what you're doing, don't even try this. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 192.168.1.139. That it currently is, so it hasn't changed. The subnet is generic, depending on there. It's 255.255.255.0. The gateway would be depending on your network that I showed on the, pretty much, we just saw this under the command prompt right now, and it's 1.1. Now, technically, it prefers DNSs, so to show you the DNS, it might vary on your system. So here I am underneath command prompt again, and I'm going to go ahead and type in ipconfig, and I'm going to put /all. And right now, the DNS is literally being pretty much the endpoint right there. Technically, I can change this DNS, I think, to anything. So if I choose, let's say 8.8.8, and then 8.8.4.4, I'm going to see if this will work. This is pretty much using like the Google DNS systems. You can choose a different one you want. But here it is. If not, you can choose your gateway, and it should figure it out itself too. And it should be set. And it says, can't save, more of the settings, try again later. So it seems that this one's just being dumb on here. So let's try if I try this again. Let me see if I change this just to 192.168.1.1 and see if I can change it. If it doesn't work through this, I'll have to show you a different route. Okay, so it's being dumb. That's one option that you can do it if it allows it to work. If not, we're going to go a different route. So I'm going to go ahead and go to here. And underneath the search bar, I'm going to go ahead and type in control panel. And this is what you're going to see, pretty much simple. All I have to do is select the network and internet, and go to network and sharing center. And then we're going to go to adapter settings. And here it is. Technically, I think we can go to settings too. Let's see that again. Let's go to settings. And I think we can go to, we were just actually cancel that. We were just on the network right here. We select it and go to internet settings. You have the options where you can select the Ethernet, and then you can select adapter options. So it takes us to the same location. I just took you a different route. Regardless, we're still at the same location. Next, we're going to go ahead and right click on it and select properties. And I'm going to go ahead and uncheck the IP version 6. We do not need that at all. Depending where you are, it might vary, but I don't think you need it at all where I'm at. And here it is for it. We're going to select the IP, the Internet Protocol version 4, pretty much the IPv4. Select it. And we're going to choose the following settings. So right here, I'm going to type in the same thing that we just had right now. Got 1.139. the subnet. I just clicked it and it did its work. 192.168.1.1. And the DNS, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can use the Google one. If it'll work. If it doesn't, I'll just change it back to something different and press OK. And so here it is. It was able to do it. It just didn't want to work on the other route underneath settings. Conclusion, you should be able to do it. It just seems it doesn't want to right now. So regardless, I did it underneath that other route and now it's being set for it. So it is manual. So here we are. Everything looks good. I'm going to see if I can remote to this computer. Now I'm going to show this on something else because technically I have my own computer that's on here because this is virtual computer. I'm going to see if I can remote this through like an example through my phone and see if this will work. So you might have to see a different type of part of the video from my phone. So let's go ahead and see if we can remote into it. So here's my remote client right here. And I'm going to go ahead and type in the IP address. So to do this, there's a little clever on this for us. I'm going to be somewhere else. So we do need to figure out what your public IP address is before I continue doing this. And what you need to do is you need to go to example like Google. Pretty simple. This will probably pop up. And you'll type in what's my IP. And depending on it, you might have something that shows in IP version 6. If it doesn't, then you might need to go to like what'smyip.com and I'll show you what it is right here. And right now it's being the same thing. I'm actually going to have to blur this for you because I don't want you to do an attack on my computer. But here it is. I do have access to it. So I'm going to go ahead and type it in. So I'm going to type in the name of the public IP address. Pretty much go ahead and type in the IP address right there. I'm going to go ahead and type it in. I almost wanted to say it out right now. So here I am. Take a little second for it, okay? Just 1 second. Colon. All right, so there we go. You're going to have to press colon. And then the name of that port. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can remote into it. So right now, here's the computer. And I'm going to go ahead and try and press return. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. And let's see if I can remote into it. So right here it is pretty much coming up. I don't know why I'm typing admin. That is not what it is. It's going to be user is what it is. And right now it's sadly going to show this password when I'm typing it in. I'm going to have to blur all this out for you from the bottom point, but that is fine. And here it is. The computer just got locked out. And now I am on this computer able to remote in anywhere I am. Pretty simple. No problems at all. And it's up. That is freaking pretty cool. So if it comes to this, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can X this out now. Disconnect on it. And I'm going to disconnect all PCs. And it looks like I am good. So the remote desktop is working anywhere you are. And you shouldn't have any problems for this. There it is. You see the resolution just kind of changed back from it. And that should be pretty much it. If you have any issues or stuff like that, then you know what to do. If it comes to a point that you don't want to have the remote desktop at the time you're not there, let's say, for example, you're here and you don't want them to remote in, you can go to settings again and just go to system protection. Not system protection. I don't want me going to remote desktop, remote settings right here. And you can just disable when you don't want to. You can enable when you need to. But that is pretty much it. You can also change those settings again from the ports. But everything looks good. If you do have an antivirus protection, like say McAfee or something like that, you would need to go to the firewall underneath there and to allow that port to work. And depending also on the regular Windows firewall too, to see if that will pass through. But from that point, you should be good. Thanks for watching, guys. If you disliked this video, then hit that button. But if you like it and you want to see more, hit that like button, get subscribed, comment, and tell us what other tech videos you want to see.